this is a graphic that I developed for my debate with Dan Barker a number of years ago, and I've used it a number of times. And it illustrates the problem with secularism and the epistemological ramifications of being a secularist, which we're seeing in the totalitarianism of these radicals who simply will not allow for any other view than their own. If you have a secular worldview, man is in the center, because man is the one directly interacting with and having knowledge of everything around him. And so man has to interpret science and morality, love, others, law, God, government, history. These are all separate, they're non-integrated facts. There's nothing that holds them together. And the result is, given that man is not omniscient and that man lacks the capacity because he's ignorant, he's finite, he learns over time, but no man can hold all of these things together. And so what you end up with is the necessity of radical skepticism and really the destruction of human knowledge. Because man is insufficient to be able to define these things, let alone to properly identify the relationship of each of these items to one another. They become separate things. And so each individual will emphasize whatever their particular interest is and will prioritize that over other things. And so this is the problem that you have when you have man at the center of all things. Man is insufficient to be able to function in this way. But this is all you've got when it comes to the secular worldview. There's no other way to do it because of the reality that man is the one having to make sense of all this data. And now today there's just too much data for any one human mind to even begin to be able to work with. So you compare that with the Christian worldview. And now at the center of the Christian worldview is the triune God. And man, me, down here, you'll notice the reciprocal arrows going back and forth between me and the triune God. Now it's the triune God who identifies all the things that he, in his omniscience and in his purpose, has made and defined around us. So government, love, law, even there's an arrow to me. So my purpose, my position, my identity is defined by the triune God. And so I have relationship to God and through God to anything else, to others, to law, to morality. And no longer do I have to be the ground of all knowledge. Now, God, who possesses within himself the capacity to be the ground of all knowledge because he's the creator of all things, my knowledge comes through him. It's mediated to me by him. And as such, I do not need to have infallibility. I do not need to understand everything there is to know about science. But because the triune God is in the center, when I have the knowledge that comes from him, it's still true knowledge. See, in the other graphic, any knowledge I have is provisional and frequently false, simply because I do not possess within myself the ground for understanding how everything is related to everything else. And so my knowledge is going to be easily falsifiable. But in the Christian worldview, God has that ground within himself because he's the creator of all these things. And so while my knowledge is limited, the knowledge I get from God is limited, it is true knowledge. In the other graphic, it's both limited and you just simply have to be skeptical. You don't know one way or the other. And so the people in this graphic, in the secular position, once they've put themselves here, then they get to define who God is. They get to define what morality is. And if I have a different morality because I'm up here, and the triune God says this is what is moral because I have defined it in that way. If I say it to a person who is here, that is a direct attack upon their centrality. That is a direct attack upon their very source of knowledge. And what we're seeing on college campuses, university campuses, in the halls of government, is once that Christian foundation is washed away, not just washed away, but absolutely purposefully rejected, spit in God's face rejected. Well, this is the result. And it leads to a form of totalitarianism, and we're seeing it. In Ottawa, they're actually saying that we can take your children unless you buy into an absolute moral insanity. It's evil, but it's also insane. It is absolutely insane that I am what I think I am. That is insanity. It is pure insanity. I cannot begin to respect it. It's not even, it doesn't even enter into the realm of adulthood. Because there are biological reality facts that all my thinking in the world is not going to change. And to say that we will take your children from you. I mean, this is Big Brother on steroids, and it's here. And the question then becomes, what do you do if they come for your children? Flee, run, fight? Depends on what your situation is, I guess. But these people want your children because they know they cannot possibly continue this abject destruction of human culture if they are forced to defend their position in any type of meaningful debate. That's why these people are not known for their rational defense of their position. The only positive thing I can see here is no culture that does this will long last. It will be replaced by something else because you cannot live in God's world and spit in God's face and pretend that the laws he's put in place don't apply to you. They do apply to you, and they will, and he has ways of making sure you know that.